So yes, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on this lovely sunny lunchtime. So when we began the Live project, one of the goals of the project was to develop tools that would support the local communities in our area, so here on Iveragh and also on the Llyn Peninsula in Wales, to develop tools for the community to be able to take and use as a way of better utilising the natural heritage that surrounds us for sustainable tourism. So one of the ways that we thought of doing that was to focus on the walking trails that exist. And Linda will go into a little bit more of the background on this. But to look at the walking trails that are already there, that are maintained by SKDP, and it's great to see Cahor here, and to look at some of the nature and wildlife that can be seen and the heritage along those walking trails, and to try and develop a digital tool so that people can access that before they visit the area, or if you're a local person, just to get a bit of background knowledge that maybe you can share with guests or visitors, and potentially even that people could develop small businesses or parts of their businesses along these walking trails and using the information that we provide as a basis for that. So that's some of the quick background. Linda, who's going to speak to you today, took it on as her task to develop these using the story map tool, it's just the platform that we're using at the moment because it's something that she was familiar with. So Linda will tell you a bit more about herself and her background, and we'll give a little introduction to the digital guides that we've developed so far as part of the project. These are a draft, they're not the final product. So that's why we'd really like to present them to you guys today and see how you all feel about them, how you feel you might use them, whether there's information we're missing or anything that, that you think we could do differently. We hope that they're going to be a really useful and interesting resource for all of you. And I think Linda's done a fantastic job at developing them to the point where they are now. But whether you give us feedback now in this call, or you join us for one of the walks that Linda is going to guide in the coming weeks, or if you just want to send us an email and give us your feedback afterwards, we really would love to hear how you all feel about these story maps. So I'll shush myself here and hand over to Linda, who will give you a little presentation on the background and introduce you to just an example of some of the trails that she's developed so far. So over to you, Linda.
Great, thank you, Lucy. I think you've set the scene nicely with that intro there. So I'll share my screen and run through some information with you. Screen, here we go. So hopefully you can see my screen okay there. And hear me okay as well, I hope.
Yeah, perfect.
All good, yeah.
Great, thanks guys. Great, so yeah, my name is Linda Lyne and I'm a zoologist working as a knowledge gatherer with the Live project. Yeah, this is the view from one of my many offices across the peninsula. No issues with 2-meter spacing and ventilation and everything. Thankfully, I'm pretty lucky. This is from Bola's Head on Iveragh. And I guess the Live project, some of you might have met us out and about already. This is when our Welsh partners came over to visit us in November, and we got together in Sneem. So this is most of us here. And on the Welsh side, they've been working on an eco-museum project for a while, which has really developed the communication between various areas across the peninsula and businesses, and really focusing on the quieter off season. They've similar tourism to ourselves, where it's you know, really peak capacity during the summer, and then it's quieter during the off season. So it's been really great to learn from our Welsh colleagues and what they've been working on so far. And then other people in photos, some of them are working behind the scenes on our amazing website. Please go and have a look at it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then some of us here in the photo as well are knowledge gatherers, which is a mixture. I'm a zoologist. We've got plantologists, jellyfishologists, rock archaeologists. You know, there's a good mix of us. So what we've all been doing is going out and looking at some of the incredible resources that people have been building up over the years on the peninsula. We've been looking at those and then looking at any gaps that are there and trying to expand on the information, fill those gaps and create resources. So my role on the project, as Lucy mentioned, I've been working on a few different projects. I might have met some of you speaking about our native lizard. We've been running something called Iveragh lizards, which is asking members of the public to report sightings of common lizards. So it's a citizen science project. And it's been really great to get out and speak to people, hear their stories. We've been into schools and things as well, which has been really nice. But the majority of my work has been on something that we've been calling our Discover series. So we have Discover information on the Finian Peninsula in Wales, and I've been working on the Iveragh side. So again, it's something I mentioned quite a lot, is that we focus on the off-peak season. So I started out straight away by just looking at what people could see and experience during the shoulder season, so spring, autumn and winter. And I started building these resources, which you can find on our website. When you click into them, it'll tell you about, the advantages of being here in winter, the colors you'll see in autumn, the spring, the spring migration, or spring flowers. So building up what people can do while they're here and what they might see and the advantages of being here. And the reason that I'm talking to you today is going to be about our Iveragh walks. So this is part of the Discover Iveragh series, and building on information for people based around our walkways. And just a bit of background on myself as well. So I'm a zoologist now, but prior to studying, I've mostly worked in tourism. So I'm from Killarney. Like lots of people in Killarney, I started out working in the hospitality industry, in bars, in restaurants, hotel reception. So I'm very, very aware of how important hospitality is to Iveragh, so growing up in that environment. And then I also worked as a senior travel consultant with Trail Finders in Cork. I spent a good number of years working there, and what we did there was specializing in tailor-made holidays to all sorts of far-flung destinations. And we had to really know about the areas we were sending people to, because we were putting together complicated itineraries, adventure holidays, car rental, all sorts. So we really did have to know what we were talking about. A lot of that involved going to visit some of these places. Tough life, I know, but it really did help if we could talk firsthand about the places we went to. But we also had people come and tell us about, their countries or their activities, in the areas that we could send people to. But a lot of what we looked at was seasonal information on destinations. It was one of the first things we do. Now, in some parts of the world, it can be really dramatic where you don't go somewhere because there's monsoon season. But in other places, we would look up information and it might say, it's winter, things are closed. And if we're getting that kind of message, we move on. We don't look at that destination, we'll look at somewhere else that's giving us more information. So we did a lot of this internal research ourselves. A lot of companies like the ones I work for, they have backroom staff that are putting together these resources. And again, they're searching for the information that's out there based on destinations and places people can visit, and certainly based on time of year. But more and more, it's clients that are coming to us. They've done the research, they're looking things up, and they're saying, I want to go here. I have holidays in February, I can get away in November, whatever it might be. So again, there's so many people that are out there that are looking for information on a destination for a variety of reasons. It could be their own holiday, it could be somebody else, maybe they want to set up a business. So I hope my position in life, like being from Kerry, having a tourism background and now being a zoologist, I'm hoping I had the right kind of view to start putting together the maps that we've been working on these drafts that Lucy mentioned. So when I started on the project, one of my first briefs was, can you have a look at the walking trails that are out there on Iveragh, and let us know what wildlife you might see at certain times a year through the off season. So that was kind of one of my initial briefs. And I started with the South Kerry Development Partnership trails, southkerry.ie website is really great. The route network is unbelievable. I mean, the habitats and landscapes, the views, the communities you pass through, it's such an amazing resource, and all like massive thanks to the cooperation of landowners. It's such an invaluable resource that we have. So that's where I started. I started going out and looking at various trails and marking down what wildlife I was seeing at different times of year. You know, we have lots of bird migration, and we've got you know, so much endemic or native wildlife here. But then in the back of my head, I always had my little tourist hat on, and from tourism side of me saying, well, there's so much more you could do here. We could be looking at the ring fort I just passed, and we could be looking at that, you know, the community network that's here, or I wonder what that Irish name means. And you know, it just started to build into this bigger and bigger image. So we were having lots of conversations about it and trying to figure out what we could do. And again, my tourism side was saying, well, how are people looking for their information when they come here? So most people would tend to start maybe with social media. So it might be important to get the right things on social media and the right connectivity through social media, because that's a lot of how people are doing their research these days. But then like it can get very specific. So say I'm into geology and I want to go to Iveragh. So do I look up hashtag Iveragh rocks? Because it does, but trying to get a geology theme into what you're searching for. So it's quite difficult. Maybe you go to Google, and you could be really lucky. You might hit a great local website that gives you in-depth knowledge on one of our towns here on Iveragh. But maybe what you're searching keeps pushing you towards peak season, because there's not that much information out there on the quieter season. And what if I'm interested in folklore? Where do I look for that? Or where do I look for wildlife? Where do I look for activities at the quieter times of year? And the whole thing as well might be that the information that you get is Ireland as a whole, or maybe even Kerry as a whole, and it's missing that uniqueness of the certain corners of Iveragh that you're looking for. And ecotourism is obviously something that's very important to ourselves here on Live, but it's very important to a lot of people now these days as well, whether you're operating a business or you're a visitor. So ecotourism should be something that's at the front of all of this too. And then local businesses, always really great, you know, if people can support local businesses, but sometimes that kind of gets washed out by somebody who has a big shiny website, and they might not even be from the Iveragh or from the area at all, but it just grabs your attention and takes you elsewhere. So there's a lot going on basically with people. So we tried to start narrowing things down, and we said, right, obviously off season is something we're focusing on. We're focusing on our ecotourism. We really want to let people know the unique kind of really specific things that you can find once you're here, once you're within our communities here on Iveragh, and obviously highlight local businesses and help local businesses with these resources if possible as well. So that's kind of what we focused our attention on. And we started building these maps. Now I'm going to go through one in more detail in a minute, but I just wanted to show you kind of what we started working on. So this is an outline of the Derrynan Mass Loop. And initially I was making these trails and I was putting in numbers, maybe saying where you might see spring birds and hear the dawn chorus, or where you might see lizards on old stone walls, or where you might hear a chough in the sand dunes. But then it was like, okay, well, what if we put in more points? And some of the points are practical information like start finish points or parking. What about if they're highlighting local businesses? So what if we use these walking trails as an anchor essentially for all the information you can find on this one really specific corner of Iveragh? And then we duplicate that with the various walking trails that are around the peninsula. So that's kind of how this started to evolve. So this is the Derrynan Mass Loop. You can see, you can link in the Derrynan House website. This is from the Waterville to Caherdaniel route along the coastal trail. and one of my colleagues was a geologist. So she put some amazing information together on the really unique geology you can find around the peninsula. And then we made it really specific with the map, saying, look, here's our glacial history, and this is a point on the map where you can see part of this history. So again, really focusing in on the detail and what makes parts of Iveragh really unique. And then, it's not just about coming and doing a walking trail and leaving. Again, we hope that it will help you connect with the communities and the areas a little bit more as well. So one thing I tried to include in the maps was it's what's in a name. It was just simply giving people some of the translations of some of the names that they were passing through. So this is Knockinawadra, the loop just outside Portmagee, and giving people a bit more connection to where they are and some extra information. So I suppose, who were we aiming these maps at? Cheesy pun coming, sorry, the sky is the limit, or the dark sky is the limit. So we were hoping locals would use these maps, and explore Iveragh. So say if you're from Carcardaniel and you head over to Portmagee and do the Knockinawadra loop, we're really hoping you might learn something new about somewhere that's, half an hour over the road. And thankfully we have heard this from a few people already, that they're learning nice local bits that they didn't know about. But visitors as well, it's hopeful that visitors would use these resources. The people who might say, oh, I'll go down for a day trip, might stay longer once they see these maps and think, wow, there's so much more to do than I thought. And of course, then that they'll look at it and go, wow, there's so much to do in the off season that I wasn't aware of, and so many advantages of going in the off season. So maybe there are people who always came here during the summer. Maybe they'll now come back in the peak season, or even move their holiday to the peak season. And then industry is another really important one. So this can come into a few different categories. So we'd hope local businesses that are already here might be able to use them. Maybe these maps can be embedded in your website, so that you can use them to show your clients or your customers that are coming to your business that's already established. Maybe these might give you ideas to launch a new business in the area. And then also further afield from that. So like I mentioned, when I was working as a travel consultant, we were always looking for these kind of resources to tell us about areas. And people visiting, going on holidays, were coming to us with these kind of resources saying, look, I saw this online, could you tell me more? So there's a huge amount of people who might use these resources, and how they might use them and when they'd use them. Definitely, digital resources, I think, are best used before you go to a place, because it will give you all that extra information about how long you should stay, the kind of activities that interest you or your family. And we don't want people, stuck with their heads in a phone or their laptop or anything while they're on holidays. They should be, taking in our beautiful scenery and relaxing. So definitely these are things I'd hope people would look at before they get here. And then shoulder season is something we've mentioned several times. That's obviously when we'd hope people would be using them, but they can be used all year round, obviously. And then whether you walk or you don't walk as well is something that we'd hope that, how people would use them varies depending on what you like to do. A lot of the walks are maybe 3-4 hours, and obviously that's not for everyone. The walking industry is worth a huge amount to the Irish economy every year. So we would hope it would attract a lot of the walkers that visit, and Iveragh, with that network of walkways we mentioned, that should be a big thing. But if they're shorter trails, we mention those in the maps as well. So maybe it suits somebody with less mobility or less time that they can do a shorter walk. Or maybe they're not interested in walking, they just want to learn about the culture. Maybe they want to go and visit a stone fort, or maybe go and photograph some orchids or something like that. So we're not expecting that it'll only be people who are out hiking using these. It is something that I hope people will use them in lots of different ways. And it's something that we've been able to incorporate different media in there as well, so that you can listen to podcasts, you can look at the photos, So it's quite interactive, hopefully as well in the drafts that we've created. So what I'll do now is I'm going to bring you to our website. Hopefully we have no gremlins. I am going to stop sharing for a second while I just switch this to our website. Let's share again. Okay, so this is our website. And again, if you haven't looked at it already, please do have a good look around. There's so much in here. I'd love to talk you through all of it, but we'd be here till dark. So our events calendar is just here, lots of events coming up. But the Discover series that I mentioned, you can see through the seasons here. That's where we've been building up that seasonal information. But the walking trails is what I'd like to take you to here. So on our walking trail page, we also have the Pen Llyn walks. So this is the Llyn Peninsula in Wales. And our colleagues over there have been doing a really great job. There's some, Katarina's put some really amazing archaeology walks together. So do have a look at those as well. But our Iveragh walks are just here on the right-hand side. And we've quite a selection put together. So Derrynan Mass Loop, various walks around Ross Bay, Bean Tee above Carsevine, Valentia Island, and the Iveragh geosites were both put together by my colleague Anna, the geologist on the project. So really specialist information there for everybody who just is curious or knows a good bit about geology. So do have a look at those. Lomanach Loop and Sneem, Skellig Way, Knockinawadra and Pound Loops, and Waterville to Carradaniel. We're hopefully going to have more coming as well. I want to do an inland map too. So, but let's have a look at the Skellig Way just here, and just bring you through what we have here. So, and again, as Lucy mentioned, these are drafts. So it's not that they might look like this exactly in the end. But this is just something that we thought we'd work with initially to get the ball rolling on it and have something that we can show to people like we're showing to you today. There's a link up here at the start where you can print these as a PDF as well. So if anybody did want to print them, but what we start out with is just a set introductory paragraph for people about the project. And then just to let people know that, so what we have these numbered points all over the map, but they don't actually correspond. You're not going to go out and find a big number 1, a big number 2, you know, nailed to a tree or something along the path. Again, these are meant to be things that you read and look at before you get there. So that's kind of a standard introduction we have to them. And then some practical information about, you know, the length of the trail, the kind of ground you're going to be covering. The Skellig Way, if you're not familiar with it, it goes from Ballinskelligs to Ducala near the Glen, or vice versa. This one is a one-way trail, so we can provide useful bits of information like a link to a local business that might be able to offer a taxi collection if you are leaving a car at one point. So these are the kind of links that will work in there. We have some local businesses at the start and finish of the trail, acknowledgement of the local landowners for the use of their trails and the South Kerry Development Partnerships work. And then a very important message on all our maps as well. We've been calling it the things to know before you go. And it's like our you know, code to say what you should and shouldn't be doing on the trails. So leaning heavily towards leave no trace. You know, if you do find that beautiful orchid out there, take a photo, don't pick it. If you happen to see a lizard out there, don't try and catch it, that kind of things. But also letting people know that, you know, you are passing through people's lands, you're walking past people's back doors. Iveragh isn't just a walking trail, it's communities and, you know, people live here. So that's an important message as well. So the maps, we outline the walking trail, and we have these numbers which we highlight different things. So I'm going to flick through the map pretty quickly, I hope you'll all be able to go on to the website and have a look at it later. But I'm just hoping just to give you a feel for it, a flavour for the map, and then give time to ask interactive questions at the end. So number one here is just simple start finish information, practical stuff like where you can buy some snacks for your trail, where you might park, public toilets, inshore rescue, you know, so again, reinforcing people that you're part of the community of Ballinskelligs now, you're here, you know, so this is what you're going to learn about it through the map. This particular style of map will move along with the points as you scroll through it. We've been able to add videos, images, audio, and in this case, it's telling you about some of the bird watching. So we get a lot of winter wetland birds coming in the off season. So it's letting people know about some of the species they might see. And we've linked in the resource telling you about winter on Iveragh as well. So where possible, we're linking resources that people have already created for the area or local businesses. And then where there's gaps, we're creating those resources. And then Skellig Monk Trail is something that this trail overlaps with a little bit. So this is where I was mentioning that, you know, maybe the 12K hike isn't for everyone. So here we've highlighted a shorter walk. You can get a local guide with Desi Cronin. You know, so we're hoping to appeal to a lot of people through these as well. As I scroll down further, we've got the Skelligs, so telling people about the islands, maybe some of the boat trips, local businesses. So again, instead of telling people what's seasonal, we're giving them links straight into the local websites where they can get the most up-to-date information. So a perfect example there would be with the boat tours. What's in a name? That's something I mentioned earlier. So this is letting people know about some of the areas they're going to be walking through. And, you know, somewhere like Boolakeel actually means Boolakeel, which is Church Booley. So a lot of little nuggets like that, I think are really nice, again, to remind people about, you know, the communities they're passing through. Coast stories, this is a lot of coastline on this particular trail for sure. So letting people know about the Coast Guard stations. And then this is an audio piece. It's so interesting. If you don't know about it, it's a piece by Kerry Radio where they recorded people talking about some of the shipwrecks around the peninsula. So again, trying to get a few different media in here, you know, to make it as accessible to as many people as possible. You know, if people can't make it out onto the trail, at least they can listen to these cool podcasts and things. So some of the wildlife that you might encounter along the trail. And again, we'll put the point where you're most likely to see this wildlife or where we've seen it ourselves. So these are the links here. Kilreelig is another point that you're going to be passing through. And just moving on further, we've got ruins that you're going to pass along the trail. And my colleague Evan Lamb, that's working on the project, has been putting together a lot of resources based around this information. So again, we'll be building on these more as well. Red-billed chough, so letting people know about some of our unique wildlife. And again, hopefully these maps, like by showing them a video of a chough, when they're out there and they see a chough, they'll know what it is, instead of like maybe ignoring it or maybe not knowing how special it is and realizing that Iveragh is a stronghold for Ireland's rarest crow. So these kind of really unique bits of information about the trails to enhance it. Again, more of the incredible geology, like reading here about how the Skelligs were actually part of the mainland at one point. And as we move along further, the islands that you're going to see along the way, so letting you know some of the names and what might be unique about them. And marine mammals. Christina, one of my colleagues in the project, has been putting together information on marine mammals. You might see her whale watching event coming up soon as well. So again, this, like being a coastal trail, there's a good chance you might see something. And again, during the shoulder season, you are still likely to see whales and dolphins. I saw Risso's dolphins off the trail around the Kilreelig point. So definitely something that's quite relevant. And then heading over into Finian's Bay is towards the end of the trail. So giving you information about there, telling you that there's a holy well there. Maybe you might hop in the car and drive away and never know. But now that you know there's a holy well, maybe you'll stay longer and go and visit that as well. and some of the spring wildflowers that you might see. And up here as well, you might notice you can add in descriptive information as well. So again, making this as accessible as possible to people, that if they're using any kind of audio listening content, that we have images labeled to give people as much information as possible. And then the Gaeltacht, obviously something very important here in South Kerry. So giving people more information about the Gaeltacht, different people that are working here in the community, and links, and some episodes from Balcha and TG Cahir as well were filmed in both Kilreelig and a separate one in the Glen. So something people can watch before they head out on this trail. Again, just reinforcing that this is a community that they're visiting. And hopefully once they see these maps, they'll realize there's so much more that they could be doing here, and extend their stay or come back again, hopefully. And this is the finish point here at the Liberator Memorial. So again, this is a sample. It could be something different, but it's hopefully something that we can build on, and definitely with your feedback. And as part of the feedback, so we've got our webinar today, where I'm hoping we'll get some interaction in just a moment, but we're also doing 2 events coming up. So on Thursday, we're going to head out and do the Lunchtime Loop Walk in Sneem. And you can register at our website. That event is calendar link that I just showed you a moment ago. So hopefully people will come out, they'll have looked at the maps beforehand, and then we can chat through some different ideas and see how they can be useful for people in the community and local businesses. And then Monday next week, the 28th, we're going to do the Beanatee Loop above Carhassiveen as well. So you can register for both of those walks on our website. Still spaces at the moment. I know they're getting pretty busy, but hopefully some of you can make it there, or spread the word. If you can't make it yourself, maybe you know somebody who might be interested in it as well. So that's it for me, for Margaret. So I will hand it back to you, Lucy. I don't know if there's questions coming in or anything at the moment.
Thanks a million, Linda. Great. Yeah, so I hope that was a lovely little taster of what I know represents a massive amount of work, Linda. Well done for developing these. I guess, yeah, it would be interesting to hear if there are questions or even comments as to how you think these might be useful, or who might use them, or just what your first impressions are. Does anybody want to jump in with anything? Or Susan, yeah.
Well, I have a question just in general about, kind of, it's an incredible resource, but how are you getting it out there? I mean, I know one of the problems with Fulcher funding and some of the other funding is they don't fund marketing. So like, how are you getting this website out there as a resource? Because I know here I'm involved in the Waterville Walking Festival, and I think I'd bet you 10 euros that the other 2 people in charge of the festival don't know about this site. So how are you getting it out there?
Yeah, so at the moment we've only just kind of rejigged the website to have this whole page of trails, and it is being shared very widely online, and articles in local press, and hopefully word of mouth. I see we have Clodagh, you've just put your camera on. Did you want to jump in? So Clodagh, based on Valencia, is our marketing officer. So you might be able to give more insight into the plan for that, Clodagh.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry, I just hopped on. Yes, so Susan, we, like Lucy said, it's quite a new resource for us, and we're kind of just taking our first steps at getting it out into the community. But some of our longer term plans for it is obviously we're going to promote them on social media, as everybody does. Do some social media marketing with that as well, so to try and push them out just a little bit further than our organic reach will go at the moment. We are hoping to do some press in the future over the next couple of months in a couple of different ways that I'm not going to get into too much detail about, but we will be hoping to invite members of the press down to trial the maps and using them and seeing how they get on with them and that kind of thing. So we have got kind of quite a plan to get them out, but obviously word of mouth locally is the one of the biggest ones. You'll know that yourself. Kind of how we find out about things happening around is typically by somebody tells you when you're standing in a queue for something or whatever. So what's really, really important is kind of, if you see them and you think they could be useful, to just tell people about them yourselves, and that's really great. But we do have a marketing plan in place as well, as the Live project.
Will you be going to any of the conferences? Like, I know the Reeks district is planning on going to some of the German walking or German tourist events and things like this at the big conventions. Will you guys have a budget for that you'll attend those kind of events, or?
At the moment we're looking more at a domestic audience, but we will possibly extend that. Our project has a time limit on it, and there's only so much that we can do during the time that we're employed here, which is why we're kind of focusing more on a domestic audience at the moment. Yep. But there is the possibility that we could take them further. But these trails and this information is going to be available to the public long after my job is finished and I'm not working here. So we really hope that they will be used into the future, but whether or not we're able to promote them internationally will be down to whether or not somebody else like Falch Ireland decides to take up the mantle at the point that we're gone. Or sorry, Tourism Ireland rather than Falch Ireland for international.
Thanks.
I guess as well, it's important for us to make sure that we have something that is useful before we promote it too widely. So knowing exactly who thinks they might use these and how, and whether we've got the right information in there is also really important to us, Susan. So getting that feedback from people is so useful. If anyone does have any comments.
I know like on Visit Waterville, we have a section on walks, but it's walks that start in Waterville. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think there's 4 walks listed or 5 walks listed. But this, as you know, just like an addition on to add the Visit Waterville as a resource at the end of that page, I'm sure we could put that on there without any problem. I just, seeing how encompassing it is, because not everybody's going to want to actually start a walk in Waterville. They might want to do that down Skellig's walk to the Glen.
Yeah.
That would be great, and we'd be more than happy for people to link to our site from their own. That's obviously a really good thing and positive thing for us. So yes, if you'd like to do that, please do.
Great, thanks.
Sorry, Lucy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you've unmuted. Did you have a question?
Yeah, no question. Actually, no. I've just scraped the surface on it now by seeing it today, etc. and all that. And be honest, it was very impressive. And I'd like to thank the whole lot of you for the work you've put into it, because there's a lot of research gone into that. No, there's no doubt about it. And it is very impressive. Mm-hmm. The timing, I think myself, is going to be excellent, more especially with the South Kerry Greenway coming into play, etc. and the whole lot. And one of the big things we've always said about South Kerry Greenway is we want to keep people in South Kerry walking. And I think this is now going to be a natural progression onto it. Yes, as Susan said, there are other walks here, but it'd be great if we could package the whole lot of the walks together, and whether it's Waterville, Carsveen, Kinmare, or Cardanel or whatever, that we have a package there that when people land into Iveragh, they can stay in Iveragh and they can be walking for a week, 2 weeks or whatever. Yeah. But it is, and if this is your prototype, or if you said this is up for discussion, it's very impressive even as it is. And again, well done. Well done.
I think I agree with you there. So well done, Linda. I've had very little to do with it. I mean, maybe to give you some ideas of the kinds of things we're thinking of doing now is to branch out from just the existing walking trails and to do more themed content. So for example, we were talking about doing, guides for people who are interested in bird watching, where to go in different seasons and what they might be able to see. With all of that additional information that Linda pointed out, just some of the practicalities as well, maybe things like whale watching, if there are sites that are particularly good, where can we direct people to? So to have it more thematic as well for different people, and hopefully then in our final product, people would be able to select a walking route or also just an itinerary that they could follow around the peninsula, depending on the kinds of information that they're interested in, or folklore or something more cultural as well. So again, if there are ideas there, suggestions or things that you think might be lacking, maybe something you've looked for yourselves and couldn't find, we could think.
Can I make a point, Lucy?
Sure.
Where are you actually based? Like, where's your own office?
My kitchen.
Oh, okay. No, fair enough. Just with regards to, we'll say, because we're basing, and I know a lot of people here, obviously our majority online are local, but as Frank was saying there with the Greenway, I suppose a massive issue for as locals and and a lot of the staycations there, obviously the last 2 years, is our lack of a proper tourist office in town.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like we have the barracks, but like A, it needs to be power washed again, and B, it's, you know, it's off the track as such. You know what I mean? When the tourist office was in the community centre, it was right smack in the centre of the town as such. You know what I mean? You're driving past it and you could see where it was, and then you could have the little you know, sandwich boards outside and so on. So I think something like that is with regards to the marketing of the area and to market all of the work that you've done. We need a proper tourist office. You know what I mean? Like you've put a trojan amount of work into your project, and I'm participating on Monday with the group. With the walk with B&T, but I think to promote what you've done, I think not just word of mouth, but I think we definitely need a proper tourist office.
I mean, I would say that's kind of outside our remit in this project. It's potentially a really good point. But we are, this whole project was set up to really focus on the digital identity of the area and to try and come up with ways to give it more of that identity, because I think it's you know, Iveragh is not a name people who aren't from here really know, and it's, you know, it's kind of fallen a bit just behind the Ring of Kerry. So to give the place more of its own identity. So we're focusing very much on the digital, online and print resources, but yeah,
I just think as a plan for the area, because it's like you've a world of resources and it's fantastic work that you've done. But I think there has to be somewhere that people can actually call into as well and get the information as well. As
has been pointed out a bit, we're not here. So we're all employed by UCC, all of the project people who are on the call today, and the project will, you know, we have a funding timeline. So, you know, we're not the people to set up something like that.
Yeah.
But
it needs to be taken on board. Yeah. It's great.
Well, I will say one thing: the fact that you have PDFs on the website that you can download it as a PDF instead of just a print screen on the website is fantastic, because I do a lot of, you know, traveling around Ireland. I'm an ambassador for Europcar. So part of my job is to like go around. And so often that's the hard part, is you end up, you know, printing 2 pages to get a website here and here. But the fact that you guys have PDFs, I mean, fantastic, because that's going to be a resource that's used a lot, is to be able to say, here's a PDF of that walk you want to do. Because so you don't have to actually, and you can just put the PDF on your phone, but just someone will have it in one square. It'll be fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you for the comment, Mary. Yeah, it's a nice point as well in the chat. I'm conscious that it is lunchtime and people perhaps do need to get back to work and do want to eat. Niall, I thought you were lifting your hand up, but I think you might have been scratching your head. So are there any other questions or comments that people would like to come in with? Before we
I guess one more thing, and I don't mean to like dominate the questions and comments, but because it's Iveragh, you know, as in general, the whole area, you know, one thing to sort of be aware of, the Eurovelo cycle system, which is 17 cycle paths that go from like the Black Sea to the Atlantic Ocean, very, very, very established system of cycling trails. It has added Ireland to the cycling trails, and you're starting to see the signs now. The signs in Waterville came up last week. There's signs on the Beanbon Road. There's signs in Glen Bay, been up about a month. But it is a very world famous cycling route that does go through Iveragh. It comes around kind of the Skellig Ring and then goes up the Beanbon over the Blockbeamer Gap into Sneem, Kenmare area. So, I mean, that's something to also be aware of for this, because just even if just you have a link saying Eurovelo 1, it goes from France through Ireland, you know, so I mean, it includes going on the ferry, but it's going to be something that's going to bring a lot of people to Iveragh, no question about it. So that might be something to add a little part on your site.
It's interesting. Yeah, interesting to note. Thank you. So we might do a final plug so it's this Thursday, if you want to meet Linda and walk the Lamonic Loop with her. And if you would like to do that, you can sign up on the website, and it'd be great to take a look at the route as well that she has put together so that you can share your thoughts and comments. And then, yes, next Monday, Bean a Tea in Carsavine. It'd be great to see some of you there if you're able. Local supermarkets. Good point, Anna. Yeah, good point. And please do keep in touch So you can contact all of us at live@ucc.ie if you have any other questions or comments. And hopefully we'll see you on a walking route soon. Thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone for the great comments. Yeah, really useful. So hopefully see you on Thursday or Monday.
Perfect.
Very much.